King of Patterson 973 just shared 100 bits. KS Top.
What is going on with you, big dog? It is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Let's go! Today, big dog, we are going to be talking about White Forest and everything you need to know about the deck. Let's go ahead and jump on it. All right, big dog. So White Forest is a pretty simplistic Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Basically, what this deck likes to do is synchro summon into powerful level 6, level 8 monsters to your opponent's side of the field, and can even go up to level 10. Let's go ahead and break down these cards and everything that you can be playing inside of your deck, a couple of counters, and I'll show you some deck lists. The main thing about this deck is a Stellar of the White Forest, and what this card does is that allows you to be able to send one spell or trap card. Oh, by the way, the White Forest cards have a thing for being able to send spell or trap cards from your field or hand to the graveyard to summon themselves or to do something. And then your spell or trap cards also have the ability to set themselves when they're sent by a card effect. But yeah, you can send one spell or trap card from your hand to the graveyard, special one light spellcaster tuner from your deck. If a spell or trap card is sent to your graveyard to activate a monster's effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card, and you can only use each effect once per turn. This card is it's like the base of the deck. It's one of the most powerful cards, and people typically play 3. Now, I think it's 2 to 3. LZ of the White Forest says you can send one spell or trap card from your hand to the graveyard to summon this card, then add one White Forest monster from your deck to your hand. So if you guys are catching on, this can send to summon itself, add this, you summon this, you summon another one of these guys, and you pop off, right? It also says during your opponent's turns, if a light spellcaster tuner monster is special summoned to your field while this card is in the graveyard, you can add this card to the hand. So it's going to give you a little bit of return of power on the turns that you do summon other cards. You have Rusia of White Forest, and this card says if you control the White Forest monster, you can immediately special summon this card from your hand. I like that the lower level monsters are not tuners, and the higher level monsters are tuners in this deck, which is a little bit different than some of the other strategies. Most of the time, it's the other way around, but you get over it, right? Then you can send one spell or trap card from your hand or field to the graveyard to draw a card. Now, here's where it comes tricky, because while these cards have trigger effects, these have ignition effects. And this card says, you can target one White Forest Synchro monster you control or in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon this card, but negate its effects. And it's a quick effect, meaning that you can activate it at any given time. That's crazy. As long as you're returning a White Forest Synchro monster in your graveyard or you control to the extra deck, you can summon a level 4 tuner. You guys should already know what's coming up next. After that, it's going to be Sylvie of the White Forest. If this card is normal summoned or spell summoned, you can add one White Forest spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target one White Forest Synchro monster on your field or in the graveyard, return it to the deck, special summon this card, but negate its effects. So if you guys are getting it, the level 2 guys can summon themselves and search some of your other, or summon some of your other White Forest cards. And the bigger girls, they allow you to be able to get some cool advantage, and then also can special summon themselves to the side of the field during either player's turn. So as you can see, this deck has a big activation requirement, right? Being able to discard spells and trap cards isn't something that you typically want to do. Oftentimes you want to use your spell and trap cards, but that normally is mitigated through your White Forest spell and trap cards. For example, Beware of the White Forest. This card says if you control a level 6 or higher illusion or spellcaster monster, you target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. That effect is okay, but the best thing is that if it's sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you can set this card to your side of the field. Keep in mind, Beware of the White Forest isn't just for White Forest cards. If it's sent to the graveyard to activate any monster's effect, it sets itself to the side of the field, which is really, really good. Oftentimes, White Forest players at most play one copy of this card, but I'm going to let you decide and go crazy with it depending on your deck. Scourge of the White Forest says tribute one Synchro monster, then target one face-up card on the field and negate its effect. Then if you tributed a White Forest Synchro monster to activate its effect, you can special one illusion monster from your graveyard. Then if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a White Forest monster effect, you can set this card. I don't think I've seen a lot of players play many copies of this card, but it does have a pretty good quick effect to be able to negate any monster on the field and summon any illusion monster. It doesn't have to be Diabelle, the Queen of White Force. It actually can summon any other illusion cards. Lastly is Tales of the White Forest. This is the good one, guys. If you control an illusion or spellcaster monster, add one White Forest monster from your deck to your hand. Then, of course, if it's sent to the graveyard to activate a Diabelle, you set it to your side of the field. This is the main card that allows you to be able to get into the cards that you need. These cards pretty much line up all of your White Forest spells and monsters. There's one trap card that we have called Woes of the White Forest, or one trap card that is specific to White Forest called Woes of the White Forest. And this is the best card in the entire deck. You can use Woes of the White Forest to be able to special summon the other counterpart. Take, for example, you use Rusia to be able to summon itself to the side of the field. You can then summon Elzet and then Synchro summon with those two monsters into a 6. But you also can coincidentally summon a White Forest monster from your deck and Synchro summon with your other monsters, not the monster that you summoned. So it gives you a little bit of versatility. This is easily the best card for the deck, and you're going to play a number depending on how much White Forest you're playing. If you're playing a White Forest heavy deck, you're probably going to play more copies. And if you're playing a White Forest light deck, you might not play any copies inside of your deck. It really depends on the deck, but allowing you to Synchro summon on your opponent's turn is crazy good, especially when we consider the Synchro monsters. There's Arcelia, Sinister of the White Forest. This card says if it's special summon, you can send one spell or trap card from your hand or graveyard to add one White Forest and one light spellcaster. Keep in mind, it says light spellcaster from your deck to your hand. Immediately, I know some people are thinking of cards like Blazing Cartesia and Guiding Quim. And I want to tell you guys, if you're going the branded route, it's probably not going to work because branded fusion means you can only fusion summon that turn. But it is still good to think about stuff like that. Illusion and Spellcaster Synchro monsters gain 500 attack. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect, which is pretty good. The next card is Diabelle. And then this card says when it's Synchro summoned using a tuner Synchro monster, you can target one spell or trap card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Keep in mind, is RCL, I think RCL is the tuner. RCL is a tuner Synchro, so pretty easy to do, especially considering that you can Synchro summon on your opponent's turn. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can send one spell or trap card from your hand or field to the graveyard, summon one level 7 or lower tuner Synchro monster from your extra deck or graveyard or banishment, which is a pretty solid effect. But the main monster that you're going to be summoning oftentimes is Silvera Tamer White Force. This card, when special summoned, changes all face-up monsters on your opponent's field to face-down defense position, which is a really good way of countering so many Exceed, Synchro, and Link-based strategies. It also says Illusion and Spellcaster Synchro monsters gain 500 attack and defense, and then they can also inflict piercing damage. So the theme of this deck is to be able to set up with your White Forest monsters, put yourself in a Synchro position to either summon Arcelia if it's on your turn, or summoning Silvera if it's on your opponent's turn, and then eventually use Woes to be able to summon these monsters or get into your Diabelle, which is a crazy good card. But seeing that that the engine for this deck is so small, you can play it with other really good cards. Like, a lot of people tend to play the Toy Box engine. And the Toy Box engine is good because these cards, Toy Soldier and Toy Tank, activate or can be set to the field as spell cards, which means that your White Force can send them to the graveyard. Then when they're sent to the graveyard, they summon themselves as level 4 monsters, which works really well with Rusia and Sylvia. This deck also works pretty well with the Runic cards. And the reason why it works well with the Runic cards is because Runic can easily summon level 2s and level 4 monsters to the side of the field. And also your Runic cards themselves gives you a little bit of disruption here. So really good with that. Some people like to play it with the Chimera engine. And the reason why players play it with Chimera, monsters like Mirror Sword Knight just so happen to be an illusion monster that you can summon to your side of the field through some of these effects, and they have synergy with your other cards to be able to fusion summon as well as Synchro summon. And lastly, a lot of people like to play it with Centurion because Centurion gives you access to an easy Spellcaster Tuner light monster that can be searched through your Arcelia, but also your stand-up Centurion engine gives you free monsters to summon to your side of the field to combine with your White Force. I think out of all of the builds available, the most successful, maybe the one that's closer to a pure build, maybe just a Centurion White Forest or maybe a White Forest Toy Soldier build, but you're probably thinking about how do you counter this deck? Well, it is a Synchro-based Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategy, so cards like Dimensional Barrier are really, really good at being able to shut this deck down and prevent it from Synchro summoning. A lot of times you want to use Dimensional Barrier on your turn though. because if they activate the Woes of the White Forest, then you can be cooked. And sometimes you just want to wait till they Synchro summon and then Dimensional Barrier the Synchro monster effect. Another great card is Book of Eclipse or Destructive Daruma Cannon. Both of these cards are really good. Book of Eclipse allows you to be able to flip monsters face down, which comes up a lot because they can't Synchro summon with face down monsters. So it can be used offensively and defensively. You just got to watch out for giving them a card to your hand. Some other good cards that happen to be decently well against them, back row removal. Forcing them to use their Woes of the White Forest early is probably your best bet a lot of the times. So Cosmic Cyclone isn't a bad card against them. Harpy's Feather Duster and Lightning Storm also aren't bad Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And it really depends on the other engine that your opponent is playing that you can take advantage of. But that's all that I have for White Forest. I'm going to show you guys a couple of deck lists and how they operate, and then we'll go from there. My man's Berserker wants to share his deck list, so I'm going to be showing it to you guys. This is his Chimera White Woods deck. And as you can see, an ongoing theme for this deck is that it doesn't really play any hand traps. So you're not going to find a lot of White Forest strategies that will play hand traps because the deck can play through a lot of things. If you guys genuinely like this deck, then this is something that you could play in your White Forest deck, the Chimera version, but it doesn't have to be a hybrid deck. It can just straight up be a Synchro deck. This is one of those decks that's just all gas. You want to focus on just being able to get as much gas as possible. And this is the other deck that I want to show you guys. This is a White Forest Centurion deck, and I think this may be a strategy that we're going to see more of as opposed to the other version of it. As you can see, there's still hand traps inside of this deck, and Nibiru's might get taken out for Maxi in this particular version. But there's also a very small Centurion engine, and that's because stand-up Centurion is used to search these cards, and it's used for fodder for your White Forest monsters. There's a heavy Synchro presence inside of this extra deck. It can also summon and take advantage of really powerful cards like Sword Soul Xingying, really good card. Also can summon Visas Amaraterra to be able to get your Vanadium Reframing. And the new monster, Silhouette Rabbit, is crazy good for them because this is an illusion monster and it can set either Silhouette Hat Trick or some other trap cards that can ruin your opponent's day. But that's all that I have for an introduction into White Forest, big dogs. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, if you want to see more videos like this, you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. More importantly, catch me on the next video.